In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to use a combination of functions, index and match, to return a value out of a data set. So it's a little more complicated to use than VLOOKUP, but there are situations where VLOOKUP doesn't work. And so I've put those in this spreadsheet right here. I have this data, it's employees, their last name, hire date, birth date, sex, location, and locker number. Now let's say in another location on this spreadsheet, given a particular locker number, I want to return somebody's last name. Well, here's where VLOOKUP doesn't work, because let's say I put in my lookup value of locker number, and then of course I have my table arrays right here, comma, and finally, what column do I want to return? Well, the column has to be to the right of the lookup value. I can't put in the fact that it's a -4 or 5. So there's no negative values in that column index number. So VLOOKUP doesn't work. Another situation, let's say I set up a situation with data validation. I'll run over here, data validation real quick. I'll make it a list. And the source of my list are these IDs. Okay, and I'm going to set this up for my boss. I'll hit OK. And in the field, I'm also going to do a data validation, and I'll set up a list. And the source of the list are the things that he wants to return based on the ID number. So for instance, he could say, all right, I want this employee, 1026, and the field I want to return is their location. Okay, well now here's the problem. Is if I do a VLOOKUP, I can look up that ID. That's not a problem. So there's my lookup value, comma, and here's my array. So I can look that up, but the column index number again depends on what the user selected here for the field. In this case, being location, it's going to be column 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that would return the location. But what if in this field they happen to have chosen the birth date? Well, now it's column 4. Or the locker number, it's column 7. So this column index number is not very flexible, and so VLOOKUP doesn't work very well unless I know exactly what column I'm returning ahead of time. So there's two instances where VLOOKUP is not that useful. So how can we solve those problems or that situation? Well, let's talk about the index function on this sheet. Remember, the ultimate solution is going to be an index and match function together, but for now, let's just talk about the index function and what it does all by itself. Basically, you take an array or range of data, the same thing, right? A block of data. And then you give it a row number and a column number, and it will return the value out of that intersection. So for instance, if I have a function called equalIndex, I give it this array, G3 to L15, and I give it row 1, column 2, that function is going to return the name Hovey. If I were to do it again, index the same array, but I say row 4, column 6, it's going to return the location Austin. So let's go ahead and type that out to demonstrate it. So I'll click in here and I'll type equalIndex. That's the name of the function. And it's one of these we call overloaded functions. It has a couple different ways to use it, but ours is the top one. We're just going to choose an array. And again, the array will always be the area of data from which I want to return a value. So in this case, it's just the data. I don't need the column headings. What row number do I want? Just to be different, I'll say I want row 3. And what column number? Notice it only has 3 things, an array, a row, and a column. That's it. It's really quite a simple function to use. Except you'll see in a minute, what I'm doing is called hard coding. I'm typing in a 3 and a 4. That's not very flexible. We'll fix that in a minute, but again, let's see what this returns. So that happens to be, that probably wasn't the best example, a date. So I will quickly run over and format that as a date so we recognize it. Now we'll do a short date. But if I said row 4, actually it was row 3, so here is row 1, 2, 3, and then column 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the value that's being returned by that index function. So easy function to use. Give me a group of cells, a range, tell me which row, which column, and I'll return the value. All right, let's go to the next piece. It's the match function. Okay, now what it does is it returns the row or column number in the array of a matched item. So what that means, let's do an example. I have 3 names right here out of this whole list of names, okay? So if I run over here and type equal match, and match wants just 3 things, basically. What am I looking up? Well, I want you to find this name Hanson. And by the way, these names have to be unique in here. It doesn't work well when you have duplicates. And it's asking, well, what's the array where I'm going to look for it? And again, I'm only going to select a single column that has the names in it. I'm going to lock this because this is a formula I can drag down, copy down. And then comma, do I want an exact match or not? And for our example, the answer is yes. I want to find the word Hanson exactly, not to be close. So that's it for the match function. I'm starting with looking up Hanson, and then this is my, the red is my array or range. I'm looking in, and 0 is an exact match. So I hit enter, and notice what it returns is a 5. So where is it getting 5? It's the fact that this is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5. It tells me it's in the 5th row of that array. If I were to drag that function down, okay, so I'm going to look up Philo in that same red array with an exact match. Now it returns as 6. So Hanson, Philo is right below, and then Stolt is right below that. So that's just returning the row where I found that thing. Okay, now match will also return a column. So same thing, if I go, oops, not index, but match, parenthesis, what's my lookup value? I want to look up this ID, right, or last name, or hire date, or birth date, sex, or location. Where do I look? So this time, rather than looking up and down in rows, I'm going to look across in columns. I'm going to absolute that. And then again, comma, do you want an exact match on that? Yeah, I want an exact match. I close that up. I hit enter. And basically, the ID is column 1. And of course, if I drag this down, it's just going to give me 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So it's saying, hey, I found the last name in column 2 or the hire date in column 3. This is in column 4. So the match function, going back to my red text, it's going to return the row number or the column number in the array that you've specified. Right? So obviously, if I specify array up and down, it's going to look for something and return the row number. If I specify an array that goes this way, it's going to look for something and return the column number. Okay, so one more time, index. Give me a big block of cells and tell me which row and column number to return the contents from. The intersection, I'll return the contents from that intersection. Match, let me look for something in a single column or single row array, and I will give you the row or column number. Now, next sheet, let's put those together. Here's my, we'll start with a simple example. I just have some codes and the corresponding item. Right here, I want the user to be able to type something here, like jacket, sweater, or pants, and I'm going to return the corresponding code. I can't use VLOOKUP because the code is on the left side of the item, so I have to use an index match. So what we do is we just go index, parenthesis. It's going, well, where is the data we want to return? Right here is the data I want to return. So that's my array. Let me hit escape on this and get rid of wrap text, and we'll do that again. So I type equal index one more time, parenthesis. My array that I want to return values from is right there. I'm not moving this formula or copying it anywhere, so I don't need to worry about absoluting. Well, then it's asking, well, what row number? Well, it depends. If it's a jacket, it's row number 2. If it's pants, it's row number 3. If it's sweater, it's row number 1. So, of course, we don't know ahead of time what the user is going to type. So this is where we use the match function. Okay, so I am going to match. Well, what's my lookup value? It's the cell right next door. So F6, I don't know if it's going to let me click on it here. It did. So I'm going to look up the value jacket. Where am I going to look that up? Well, it's right here in this array. Whoop, only the 3. The match array has to be the exact same size as your lookup array, at least in this case in terms of the number of rows. And then comma 0, I want an exact match. So I'm looking up the word jacket, I'm looking for it over here, and basically the match is going to return the number 2, which is the row number of the index function. So then, what column number am I going to use? Well, our array here, the blue array, F2 to F4, is only one column. So that's why they show it in square brackets. It's optional. But just to be consistent, I'm going to go ahead and fill it in and say it's column 1. And I will close up my function and now hit enter. So jacket, the code is JK002. If I run over here and type pants, it automatically fills in PN001. And if I run over here and type sweater, it automatically will grab that code. So there it is. This is one example where we just use the match for the row number because I don't know what row the code is in because it depends on what the user typed. Okay, let's do another example. I have 3 different sizes and again 3 different products, and I want the user to be able to type those values right here under size and item, and a formula that will automatically return the correct price based on what the user typed. So again, I can't use a VLOOKUP because I don't know what column index number to return because that varies depending on the size selected by the user. So in this case, index is the function we want to use. And the array, again, the array is just the area of data that we want to return. So let me click here. So that's the values I want to return. What row number? Remember, row 1, 2, 3. There's only 3, but which one? Well, again, it depends on the item that the user typed. So that's where I have to do my match. So I type the word match, parenthesis, what's the lookup value? So in this case, it's going to be the item, which hopefully I can click on the cell J7 here. Whoops, I missed it. I'll just run over here and type it. So I'm going to look up the value that the user typed for the item. Well, where am I looking for that? And so it's just right here. And again, the number of rows in my matchup array has to match the number of rows in my index array. I don't want to get that off. So there's my lookup array. And then, of course, 0. We want an exact match. So now that was filling in the row number. I'm going to type a comma. Now I need to fill in the column number. Well, is it column 1, 2, or 3? Well, it depends on what the user typed for size. So this time I have to do a second match for the column. And the lookup value is going to be the size that the user typed. So it's not letting me click, so I'll just type it. It's I7. I7 is the size that the user typed. What's the lookup array for the size? It's just these 3 columns. So now the column number, the 3 of them, have to match the column number that you did in the blue index array. So make sure those numbers match. And then finally, we want an exact match on that also. So I'm closing up the match function, and I'll hit another parenthesis to close up the index. So this time it's an index with 2 matches. The first match is returning the row number. The second match is returning the column number. And of course, those are based on what the user typed for the item and the size. So when I hit enter, there's the $30 for medium pants. If I were to change this to small, there's the $25. And then of course, if I change this to sweater, I will get the $10. So let's do 2 more examples of this. So on this sheet, I have in a situation where I have employees and 5 different regions, and I have the sales figures for the employee in a corresponding region. And I want to set up this spreadsheet such that a boss or a user can choose a drop-down list, grab an employee. They can go to the next cell, grab a drop-down list, grab a region. And I want a formula right here that will return the sales for that employee for that region. So again, VLOOKUP would almost work, except I don't know which region. So I don't know the column index number on the VLOOKUP in that case. So right here, what I'm going to have to do is type equal and then index. What's the array of the index? It's the range of cells where I want to return values from. So I'll select that range. That's the range of cells I want to return the values from. Comma. What row number? Well, it's going to depend on the employee. So I type match. Parenthesis. Lookup value. I got to look up the employee my boss selected. Comma. Where am I going to look it up at? Over here in the area of employees, and again the number of rows I've selected here matches the number of rows I've selected in my array. And so right now I just noticed they don't match because when I grab my array I accidentally grabbed the total row and I don't have an employee called total. So I need to run back here and fix my array and put it back to 13. There. So now the blue box and the purple box match. So coming back to finish my lookup array, we're good there, and then 0 for an exact match. Close up your match function. That determined the row number out of our array that we're going to return a value. Well, now I have to do the same for a column number. So I type the word match. What value am I going to look up? Well, in this case, somebody typed the word north. So I got to look up the value for north, and I'm going to select across this area. And again, this time the column numbers have to match. So my red dotted area up here has to match the blue array right here. So comma, exact match again, so we'll put a 0. I close up the match function, and this match function was determining my column number. And then I close up the index function, and then I hit enter. So here's my sales, 1613 for Sioux North. If I were to change this to Dillon, make sure I have a cell that has a value in it. Scroll down to Dillon. You'll notice Dillon North will have a value of 2430. And then, of course, if I change the region to Central, then I get 2476. So anyway, no matter what employee or what region I choose, that index match function will automatically return the value based on the user input. One more example, and then we're done. I think we'll beat this to death. Hopefully you're starting to understand it. Here I have quite a few records about sales, home sales, in different cities by different agents, and I want to determine their commission. Well, their commission varies based on the agent and the city. So if the agent is Minkus and it's in Alpine City, then we charge 6.6%. But if it's an American Fork, we'll do 5.7%. Lehigh, 6%. So who knows why we have different rates for different cities, but that's the situation. So we run over to our sales sheet and we want to return that commission. Now, before I do, I know I'm going to need to look up the cities in this range here. I'm going to have to look up the agents in this range there, and then I'll have to look up, this is my index array, the values that I want to return. But I don't want to have to keep flipping back and forth between sheets as I get ready to type this formula. So I think I'll just name this range right here something simple like commission. I will name this range right here as my cities. Enter. And I will name this range right here as my agents. So I've named those 3 ranges, and now I can use those names in my formula over here on the sales sheet. So again, I'm going to look up the commission. Equal. It's going to be an index. And what is the table array? Well, I named it commission. So that was all those percentages over in the other sheet. What row number? Well, the row number is going to be based on the agent. So for Minkus, it was row 1, but Carrie, it's going to be a different row. So I have to do a match. What value am I going to look up? Well, I'm looking up this agent's name, the selling agent. And what is the lookup array? I think I named it, oh boy, that's bad luck. What did I name my array? Well, I'll have to go look up my array. So let me hit escape on my formula and we'll run over here. So I have cities commission. Well, it looks like I must not hit enter when I created this. That was bad luck. So, don't know what happened. A-G-E-N-T-S. This time I hit enter. And let's just double check that I have. Agent, cities, commission, they're all there. Back at it again. Equal index. Parenthesis, commission is my cells that have the percentages in them. I need to match on the row number. So I'm going to look up this agent, comma, and now hopefully there is the array where I'm going to look for that name, and it's going to be a 0 for an exact match, comma, and now I need to figure out what column. Well, the column is going to be based on the city. So again, I do a match. Parenthesis. See if I can scroll over so you can see the formula. What am I looking for? It's the city. So in the very first case, it's Alpine. Comma, what's the array? It's the range defined name called cities. And again, it has to be an exact match. So I close up the match, one more parenthesis to close up the index. And that's going to return that percentage value. If I were to format that as a percent with multiple values, double click and then hit enter, it will put it, I thought it would format as a percent all the way down. But so that's going to be a percentage value. But what I may want to do is multiply that by the asking price, selling price, or the listing price, probably by the listing date. So at the very end of this formula, I could just go times and then multiply it. I think I said listing date. I meant selling price. Multiply it by the selling price. And so now, of course, it took that percentage, and we want to make it dollars. So I'll just click on that accounting format. There we go. So anyway, the bottom line is understanding index and match. And it's easy as long as you understand the array are the values that I want to return. And the row number is basically using a match to get the row number of one item. And then the column is going to be a match to get the column number of the other item. So you have to just make sure you keep that straight. In this example, the column is going to be determined by the cities and the row number is going to be determined by the agents. So when you're doing your formula, you can't get these two matches switched around because they are two different things. Agents are determining my row, cities are returning my columns. So that's it. Thanks for watching.